ask you a question?
Sure.
Why do you think more people don't go to church?
Is that true?
Yeah.
Really? Well, I don't go to church because I'm trying to find answers on my own.
All right.
I don't know why other people don't go.
The disillusionment they feel in the religious system.
Because church is real boring. I don't know, everyone thinks it's, boring, basically. When you get up a Sunday, it's the last thing you want to do is dress up and go somewhere and have somebody lecture to you, it's, I don't know, it's just, church really isn't the end thing, people are doing their own thing.
Because they find it irrelevant. The pastor's always condemning people. But I have to admit that choir really can put a person to sleep. It's too early in the morning.
Singing's it's not like celebrating life, and it seems like that's what church should do, is celebrating the gift of life. And they're kind of dull.
Because church services, I'm not a Christian, but services are boring, and so far as I'm concerned, entirely waste of time, waste of time, waste of time, waste of time.
Welcome, everybody. So glad you guys are here for week number 5 of Unstoppable. And our crowd is a little smaller today because half of our little church is down at the Loudoun Valley Community Center because we launched CVCC Kids Ministry today. That's right. And anybody sitting next to you who's all wet, they were probably here early on. And they are wet because they are still trying to dry off from working so hard. It is a bath. It is a steam bath out there. So we are so glad that they were here. The last couple of weeks, we have been laying the foundation for what CVCC is all about. And the first week, we talked about having, what is church in the first place. One of the weeks we talked about our vision, our mission, and having unstoppable partners. And then last week, we had fun with the word idiotes and being unstoppable idiots. And I hope that when our website will hopefully be up in the next week or so, and we are going to have that little library there. And so we want to make sure you guys get a chance to tell your friends and let them know that if you want to at least see how the preacher preaches, unlike what the video said that we just watched a second ago, is Dan really condemning? Is he really harsh? Is he mean? They can take a look at the sermons that are online and check that out. One of the things that we've established is that our mission and vision and what we are to be about is to lead people to become fully devoted followers of Christ. And that was based on Matthew 16. It was based on Matthew 28. So one of the things that we want to talk about this morning is having an unstoppable church culture. An unstoppable church culture. That we want to create a place where you can invite a friend who doesn't normally come to church or that doesn't know much about God, and that they will feel comfortable and welcome here. The first slide I want to talk about this morning is the Engel scale that I promised you we were going to look at it every week, and so we don't have the Engel scale. So if you take out the program, you'll see that there. And actually, I do want everyone to take a look at that. Open that up, and you'll see at the very top where there's like a -10, and that there is no God framework there. And we want people who have no God framework to feel comfortable coming here. And we believe that our messages and the music, it will all be inspiring and helpful to them. And here's what we've learned is that if you are not a regular church attender, you'll walk into any typical church and you'll feel quickly like an outsider. Raise your hand if you've ever been with the in-laws or there's extended family, you're there on a break, and you attend their church, and you have no idea what's going on. Does that ever happen? Yeah, you've gone into a church setting, and you're like, okay, do I stand up? Do I sit down? Am I allowed to do this? Can I bring a cup of coffee in? Where's the bath? I mean, there's a whole little church culture that is going on there. Now, one of the things that we want to be about here at CVCC is that you can bring an unchurched person here and that they will feel loved, and even though they're not an insider, so to speak, that they will feel comfortable here. I found an article from a guy who works at NASA this week, and I love this. How many of you are really smart, and if somebody from NASA, thank you, John, if somebody from NASA was to use their jargon and their vernacular, that you would know what they're talking about? Maybe John would, because he's kind of a rocket scientist guy, you know. But here's the thing: is I found this article, a guy from the editor of Earth Science, and John may know who this guy is, but he's also a Christian, and he used the title of the article was called "Please Speak My Language," and I love this. He said, he used the term when you go to NASA that everybody there using their own vernacular, they're all insiders. And you know what each other's talking about. You guys who work in the government, you'll use these acronyms for stuff. And us lay people who don't work for the government, we have no idea what you're talking about. Go to a barbecue or whatever, and you're talking, well, yeah, you know, all these initials. I don't know what the initials mean. And so, but you got your insider, right? You got your insider language. That's what this guy's talking about. He said that inside NASA, their language and culture was full of their own jargon and acronyms. He said, but as an editor of the Earth Science magazine, he had to be intentional about communicating the language, all the stuff that was going on inside of NASA, outside to normal folks, average folks like you and I. And I want to quote what he said. He said, what if, like most of you reading this article, you're not a NASA insider? Then your perspective changes dramatically. If an acronym or jargon term is used without it first being defined, he said, you're likely to be completely lost. You'll get frustrated and lose interest pretty quickly, and there's a good chance that you won't continue reading the publication or even listening to the person speaking to you. He said, since the publication or speaker makes no effort to define the terms to help an outsider like you connect, you will probably assume that the publication or the presentation is not for you, and you will rapidly lose interest. When I read this guy was stating my passion for what we do here called church, and that we have our own jargon. We have our own church subculture, and you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. Especially, and you guys who are outsiders of the church, you can parody us so bad. It's hilarious. I mean, if you're not careful, you'll come in and you'll hear words like some of the churches, you know, the music. One of the lyrics in a hymn said, "Raise thine Ebenezer." How about angels prostrate falling? If you're an outsider, you read things like that, you're like, I don't know what is going on. Or the preachers. A lot of times preachers will use big theological terms. Things like Calvary. If you're an outsider, you don't know what Calvary is. Calvary is a very important word. Right, insiders? Calvary is a very important word. Repentance, atonement, okay? We get that. But if you're an outsider, you just lost me. We've got to unpack our words here on the inside. We're going to do communion next week, the Last Supper. We're going to do the elements. Somebody mentioned to me, what are elements? I have no idea what you're talking about. What's an element? Is that like periodic table? Or, you know, what are you talking about with elements? See, so often we are so accustomed to just dealing with one another that we forget, we don't put the glasses on and see what those who are outsiders think when they come in to our doors.